In Boston, one bridge can change your life. Pick the wrong side and suddenly your commute doubles, your weekends vanish, and your friends feel like, well, they live in another city. So, quick lay of the land. Boston runs on rivers and rails. Cross the Charles, Mystic, Neponset, and your daily routine, it changes. Your choices are city core, inner ring rail towns, or coastal corridors. Pick wrong and a 10-minute errand becomes a 45-minute puzzle. I've seen this play out with so many clients relocating here. A young couple swore Charlestown was perfect until they realized parking there can feel like a full-time job. And a family who never thought about Quincy ended up loving it when they saw they could live on the water and ride the Red Line right into the city. Here's what nobody tells you. Picking the wrong neighborhood in Boston can turn your dream into a daily grind. I'm serious, this place is small, but every pocket feels like its own universe. Some areas live like Manhattan, others straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting, and a few just have, well, they've just now been starting to blow up. So in where would I live if I was moving to Boston, Massachusetts? I'm breaking it all down by lifestyle. So you can cut through the noise and see what Boston actually fits for your life. Now, I know this isn't a simple question because I've lived it myself. When I was younger, I was downtown in Back Bay and the South End, chasing that kind of city energy. Later, I spent years outside the city in Andover, where life slowed down and space mattered more. More recently, I've owned in Newton and on the South Shore, plus investment properties in Cambridge, as well as back in the city. And what I've learned is this: Boston doesn't give you one lifestyle. It gives you chapters. Each stage of life shifted my priorities, and with it, the neighborhoods that made sense. That's why this isn't about finding the best neighborhood in Boston. It's about finding the best fit for your life right now. So let's kick this off with one thing that most buyers never think about. What happens if you're flying in and out of Logan all the time? If you're a frequent flyer, Logan Airport is going to run your life. So let's talk about the neighborhoods that actually make sense if you're on a plane once or twice a month for trips. East Boston is always the first place I bring up. Around Jeffreys Point and Maverick, you can hop on the Blue Line and be at Logan in 2 stops. I've had clients who picked Jeffreys Point for that reason alone. You're also looking at skyline views back towards the city that feel like, well, a movie every single night, or one of those crazy postcards or photos that you see. And Eastie has gotten a serious glow up. You've got local shops like The Quiet Few for a drink, Angela's Cafe for Mexican, Real House on the Water. It's walkable, it's vibrant, and it's appreciating fast because people finally realize the convenience. Now, the trade-off? You'll pay more for the views, and noise can be a factor closer to the airport. Now, if you want a different feel, Winthrop is completely different. It's basically a small coastal town 5 minutes from Logan. You've got Belle Island seafood, a beach you can actually walk to, and streets where everyone waves to each other. But here's the thing, you're right under the flight path. Some buyers hate it, others stop noticing after a week and love the trade-off. If you can handle the noise, you get a small town charm without giving up airport convenience. Revere is another option, especially if you want coastal living at a lower price point, more affordable living. Revere Beach is America's first public beach, and the redevelopment happening along the waterfront has changed the way people see it. You're still 15 minutes to Logan, you've got the Blue Line, and you can get more space for your money compared to Eastie. I've had clients who chose Revere because they wanted the beach lifestyle without paying South Shore or Cape prices. And then there's Charlestown. Totally different energy, historic, brick cobblestones, a mix of old and new. What makes Charlestown interesting for frequent travelers is you're minutes from the airport by car, but you also have the ferry. You can leave the Navy Yard in the morning and be in the financial district in under 10 minutes by boat. For a lot of professionals, the commute isn't just convenience, it's lifestyle. And that's exactly why you need the right guide here. If you're even considering a move in or around Boston, my team and I would love to be your local Boston real estate team of choice. We live this market every single day, and every week we're helping families figure out not just where to live, but whether Boston even makes sense for them in the first place. So before you get too far down the rabbit hole, save my info and reach out. We'd be honored to help you, well, land in the right neighborhood with total confidence. Now let's talk about families, because this is where Boston and the suburbs really show their differences. If schools are your number one priority, there are places that, well, they dominate the conversation. Brookline is always at the top of the list. It's walkable. It has some of the highest performing schools in Massachusetts, and the neighborhoods feel like a blend of the city and the suburbs. You can grab, a coffee in Coolidge Corner, walk to the park, and still be at the Green Line and go right into downtown in minutes. That balance is why Brookline homes rarely sit on the market. There's always a line of buyers waiting. Newton, well, it's another heavyweight. Stately homes, tree-lined avenues, schools that, well, they top the national rankings. Families are drawn to Newton for its larger homes with Green Line and commuter rail access that makes sure Boston is never far away. Sellers here have an advantage because Newton comes with prestige. People from across the country recognize the name. Belmont and Winchester are different. They're a different flavor, and both schools that draw families year after year with neighborhoods that feel, well, authentically New England, from walkable town centers to Friday night community events. I've had families who've wanted the Brookline experience but ended up, well, falling in love with Belmont's quieter, more residential vibe. Now, Milton deserves a spotlight here. It's closer to Boston than people realize, with great schools, more space, and even the trolley line into the city. Families love that they feel like they can get a yard while still feeling close. And here's one people don't talk about enough: Braintree. It's the on-ramp to the South Shore, and both the Red Line and the commuter rail, plus quick access to 93, it's often seen as one of the most affordable, well, entry points for Greater Boston, though affordable in this market, it's always relative. I've had clients who landed in Braintree because it gave them the biggest cost to access ratio. More house, strong transit, and still close to Boston. When I say affordable, I mean relative to Greater Boston. You're buying access and transit and time at a better price point, not cheap. Everyone assumes these towns are just for families, but I've also worked with empty nesters moving into Brookline or Newton after raising their kids elsewhere. They want the community, the walkability, and to be closer to Boston again. And if you're selling in any of these towns, know this: families from across the country are literally lining up for these schools. Homes here don't just sell, they get competed for. Okay, so not everyone moving to Boston wants to be in the thick of it. Maybe you want more space, quiet streets, still need to hit the city for work for fun. Medford is a great example. With the Green Line extension, it's closer to downtown than ever, and buyers are starting to take notice. You get the kind of community where you know the neighbors and still hop into the city in minutes. Arlington is another. It has a real family vibe, access to the Red Line nearby, and streets lined with capes and colonials that feels quintessentially New England. Watertown has been in the middle of a complete renovation. With Arsenal Yards and the biotech boom, it's become a magnet for professionals who just, want restaurants and shopping and jobs all within walking distance. Sellers here should know that demand is only climbing. And then there's Quincy. Honestly, Quincy is the hidden heavyweight nobody talks about enough. It's on the Red Line. It has miles of waterfront, and you'll find everything from old school joints to trendy new openings. I've had clients who thought they wanted South Shore suburbs, but ended up in Quincy because they could get more house and still have a 20-minute ride into downtown. If you're looking for prestige, Wellesley and Hingham stand out. Wellesley carries national name recognition, especially with its schools. Hingham gives you that South Shore charm, beautiful homes, and ferry service right into the city. People think suburb means boring, but Watertown and Quincy are making the suburbs feel exciting again. If you're selling in these suburbs, you're not competing with city neighborhoods. You're offering a lifestyle upgrade. But buyers pay for space and connection. In 60 seconds, I'll show you where coastal living doesn't mean a long commute. If being near the water is your dream, Boston has waterfront choices that people never imagine. On the South Shore, Quincy, and Hingham, these are the big names. Quincy mixes coastal living with Red Line access, and yes, it's home to the very first Dunkin', still open on the Southern Artery. Clients love that they can grab a coffee at the original Dunkin' and be downtown in 20 minutes on the Red Line. One family I worked with moved here from Chicago. They couldn't believe that they could own an entire home with ocean views and still have, well, city access that fast. Hingham has a ferry service that makes commuting into Boston feel like a scenic boat ride. Imagine just leaving the Hingham shipyard in the morning, coffee in hand, and pulling into Rose Wharf with the skyline all set up in front of you. It turns the commute almost into like a ritual or like a soothing day of yoga. Go further to Cohasset and Scituate and life slows down. Marinas, village greens, and a strong coastal identity. These towns feel less like suburbs and more like, well, classic New England destinations, where weekends revolve around the harbor and local traditions like Scituate's St. Patrick's Day Parade. And then there's Winthrop, a true beach town 5 minutes from downtown. It still flies under the radar, but buyers who discover it are blown away by the small town feel. The local seafood at Belle Isle and the fact that you can be on the sand in the morning and in a meeting in the financial district about an hour later. The North Shore offers places like Beverly, Manchester by the Sea, or Nahant, giving you seaside living with commuter rail service back to Boston. Beverly splits the difference. 5 commuter rail stops, an art scene, and a walkable downtown, just steps from the water. The commute rules some buyers out, but for the right fit, the value of living by the ocean, well, it outweighs everything else. Everyone thinks Boston's coastal living means Cape Cod or the North Shore. The truth, you can live, on the water in Quincy or Winthrop, still have your office downtown in under 30 minutes. Don't get me started about Hull. Waterfront sells itself, but don't forget to highlight the commuter angle. Buyers love the dream of oceanfront living while still catching a morning train. So sellers, that means you. If you want destination energy on your doorstep, this is your time. Beacon Hill is the obvious choice. Cobblestones, gas lamps, history everywhere you look. It's one of the most iconic neighborhoods in the country. But here's the reality. Those narrow streets and endless stairs aren't for everyone. I had a client from California fall in love with a Beacon Hill condo until she realized she'd be hauling groceries up 3 flights of steps in February. And I'm talking steep steps. Still, sellers here don't need to worry. That charm never goes out of style and buyers will always line up for it. The North End, it's legendary for a reason. You've got Hanover Street, packed with Italian restaurants, modern pastry and Mike's Bakery with lines down the block, and festivals that take over the streets all summer. It really does feel like a village inside the city. Now, the trade-off? Apartments here are often small, but for buyers who want to feel, well, like a part of a community, nothing compares. Downtown Crossing and Midtown are for people who want modern luxury. Glass towers, full-service doorman buildings, gyms, rooftop lounges, all right in the middle of the financial district and the theater district. It's a lifestyle play. Convenience and amenities with the city at your feet. Fenway is the one that surprises a lot of relocation buyers. Everyone thinks of the Red Sox, but Fenway has transformed into a hub of young professionals. Between the new apartments, restaurants like Citizen Public House, and the nightlife that spills out around Lansdowne Street, it's alive with energy almost every night of the week. Everyone calls Seaport the playground of Boston, and it is, but Fenway might actually feel more alive, especially on the weekends when Seaport clears out. I've had clients who came in set on the Seaport, and they chose Fenway because the energy felt more authentic. If you're selling in the city, remember this. Buyers here aren't chasing square footage. They're buying energy and neighborhoods like Fenway and the North End. If you're buying in the city, remember this. Buyers here aren't just chasing square footage. They're buying energy, and neighborhoods like Fenway and the North End deliver in spades. If you want network, culture, and, well, career, this is your lane. Seaport is the obvious headliner. Glass towers, rooftop bars, and a luxury lifestyle that looks like it belongs in Miami more than New England. Drinks at Lookout Rooftop, dinner at Ocean Prime, and everything is shiny and new. But here's the surprise. Seaport clears out on weekends. It's packed Monday through Friday with professionals, but Saturday morning, it can feel like a ghost town. Some buyers see that as a negative. Others love it. They get the weekday action, and, well, a little bit of weekend peace. The South End couldn't be more different. Brownstones, art galleries, dog parks, and one of the best food scenes in the city. You've got spots like Toro for tapas, Copa for Italian, and Soa Market for art and street food on Sundays. I had a client who came in, well, dead set on Seaport, but switched to the South End after walking Tremont Street. They wanted more character and community. Back Bay is iconic Boston. Newbury Street shopping, the Boston Public Library, the Charles River Esplanade right outside your door. It's the classic image of Boston, but here's the catch. You're paying top dollar and parking, total nightmare. For some, the walkability makes up for it. For others, it's a deal breaker. Cambridge has its own rhythm, especially around Kendall Square and Central Square. Think biotech startups and a brainy entrepreneurial spirit. That kind of energy, yeah. Cafes, they're packed with laptops, breweries buzzing at night, and a little bit more of an international feel. Young professionals in tech and research flock here, and sellers should know. Buyers will pay a premium to live close to MIT and Harvard's ecosystem. And then there's Somerville. Davis Square and Union Square are where Boston's creative crowd hangs out. Live music at the Buren, breweries like Aeronaut, and now the Green Line extension makes it easier than ever to get downtown. Somerville feels like the cool friends neighborhood. Laid back, fun, and increasingly in demand. The GLX didn't just cut commutes. It expanded people's dating and dining radius. That's a lifestyle upgrade locals actually brag about. The Seaport delivers luxury, but a lot of buyers end up in Somerville or the South End because they want, well, culture and community, not just, well, all those towers. If you're selling in these neighborhoods, don't just sell the square footage, sell the lifestyle. For young professionals, Vibe is, well, the amenity that they're paying for. Up next, 2 mega projects changing the way smart money buys. And here's the part that most people overlook. The future of Boston, because right now the city is in the middle of one of the biggest transformations in history. Suffolk Downs is the perfect example. It's over 160 acres on the East Boston Revere Line, a former racetrack that's being redeveloped into a brand new community. We're talking housing, parks, retail, office space, basically a new city within the city. Buyers who never would have looked at Revere are starting to ask about it because of Suffolk Downs, and it's going to change the game. On the other side of Boston, Alston Landing is another massive project. It's Harvard's vision for a new neighborhood with housing, labs, open space, and connections that will completely reshape how people see the western side of Boston. What's wild is that this is not just construction. It's a full reimagining of a neighborhood that didn't even exist before. And it doesn't stop there. The Seaport is still expanding with projects like Echelon Seaport, which blends condos, restaurants, and retail into a self-contained lifestyle. Fenway is adding towers around Boylston Street with more housing and entertainment. Even Dorchester and South Boston have new developments that they're rising and they're gonna change the city's skylines. When projects like Suffolk Downs or Alston Landing come online, they don't just add new housing, they reset the market around them. Suffolk Downs alone is expected to bring thousands of new apartments and condos, which means buyers who once overlooked East Boston or Revere will suddenly see them as prime options. Prices in Eastie have already jumped over 35% in the last 5 years, and that kind of growth, it attracts both relocating families, locals, and investors. On the west side, Alston condo prices are already pushing past $800,000, and Harvard's project is likely to pull even more demand from professionals who want to be near the growth. And here's the key. When demand concentrates like this, it doesn't just rise prices in the new buildings. It pushes up the value of surrounding neighborhoods too. Think Brighton, Somerville, Cambridge. Pro tip, in mega projects like these, the perimeter streets often overperform and outperform the others because they're close enough to walk to, but quieter than the center blocks. For buyers, that's value. For sellers, that's leverage. That's why if you already own in these areas, these projects are your tailwind. You're not just selling a house, you're selling proximity to Boston's future, and that's the story buyers will pay a premium for. I did a full breakdown in my video. These 16 developments will change Boston forever. And if you're thinking about buying or selling, you need to know how these shifts could affect your timeline. Here's the mistake I see over and over. People fall for the Instagram version of Boston. The picture of brownstones, cobblestones, and rooftop views, and well, they assume it's all charm and history. Beacon Hill looks like a dream until it's February. You're on the 3rd floor and you're dragging groceries up icy steps in the dark. I had a client who thought they wanted Beacon Hill for exactly that type of charm, but after one winter rental, they realized it wasn't realistic for their lifestyle. They ended up in Brookline, where they still got character, but with an easier daily kind of routine. Parking is another one. Buyers move here, well, imagining themselves in Back Bay or the North End, until they realize every night turns into, well, a battle for a space. For some, that's, well, a deal breaker. For others, they don't care. They'll pay a premium because living on Newbury Street or Hanover Street is worth every single headache. And then there's the commute. Everyone loves the idea of more space further out until they sit on the Pike for an hour each morning, and that's why I always tell my clients, your neighborhood has to match your actual daily rhythm, not the one that you post on Instagram, the one you live every single day, the real one. The right neighborhood isn't the prettiest or the one with the biggest reputation. It's the one that lines up with how you actually live. Get that right, and Boston feels magical. Get it wrong, and well, it'll wear you down fast. Okay, let's do a quick recap so you can see where you fit. Airport warriors, well, we're looking at Jeffreys Point, Eastie, Winthrop, and well, Charlestown. Schools first, well, that's Brookline, that's Newton, that's Belmont, Winchester, and well, the value entry, that's Braintree. For those looking for the suburban and kind of connected, that's Watertown, Medford, Arlington. Prestige, well, you're going for Wellesley and Hingham. And if you're going for that city energy, well, Fenway, North End. If you're really looking for that kind of culture plus a network, go South End, Somerville, and Cambridge. So where would I live if I was moving to Boston, Massachusetts? The truth is, it depends entirely on your lifestyle. And that's what makes this city incredible. There are a dozen Bostons, each with its own rhythm. If you're planning a move, my team and I would love to be your Boston real estate team of choice. We live in this market every single day, and every week we're helping families relocate, buy, and sell. And sometimes helping them figure out whether Boston even makes sense in the first place. Shoot us your top 3 non-negotiables: schools, commute, budget. We'll run a 3 neighborhood fit test with commute reality, winter logistics, and all the things you need, so you don't have to learn the hard way. So before you go too far down the rabbit hole, save my info and reach out. We'd be honored to help you land in the right neighborhood with total confidence. And if you want to keep going, check out my playlist on Boston neighborhoods. It's packed with even more insider perspective to help you make, well, the right call.